Alright, it's beginning to feel like spring is in the air. I'm seeing a lot of flowers blooming out there, and I thought I'd put together an updated Mimosa flower fragrances video. Mimosa Acacia flowers, that's what we're discussing today. Even though the flowers bloom in the spring, yellow, beautiful puffy pom-pom like tiny little flowers that smell powdery and almondy and kind of a floral iris kind of a thing. Fragrances do not necessarily go fresh, but I am basically highlighting 13 amazing Mimosa fragrances. So if you want to find out what they are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian, and yeah, today I'm talking about Mimosa flower fragrances. I first discovered Mimosa as Acacia. Acacia and Mimosa are both the same flowers, and I discovered Acacia with Acacia honey, which I really love the taste of. Amazing flavor because the bees do their thing with the Acacia flowers, and so they create the honey with those particular flowers. So there's a kind of a light almondy kind of a taste to it, but very, very light and very, very almost like I would say delicate flavors. So I really liked it, so I had to look it up, Mimosa flower, and then of course one thing led to another. Now I know a ton of Mimosa fragrances. And Mimosa kind of tends to go into the feminine direction. It's a yellow flower. Again, it's powdery, it's a bit almondy. It's very airy and very, very light, but there's a sweetness about it. And you know, you might actually confuse the smell to something like iris, but they're definitely not identical smells. Just because they become powdery, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're smelling iris. The other thing is also you might think the smell is similar to heliotrope. So they're distinct flowers, very, very unique, and there's a ton of fragrances out there that utilize this flower, this yellow flower. But just think of those pom-pom little flowers. There's the leaves are kind of delicate fern-like, and then you'll see these yellow flowers blooming everywhere, and I think they're ready right now. They're blooming everywhere. At least I can see them wherever I see the trees. And they have a smell. There's a certain smell to them, not very strong, and that's kind of unique about this particular flower. But anyway, I've got 13 fragrances plus one bonus. The bonus fragrance does utilize Mimosa, and it is more about something else in the fragrance, but it definitely has a prominent Mimosa experience. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. One thing I also forgot to mention, there is definitely a honeyed-like experience with Mimosa. You definitely get honeyed accords, honey and almonds together kind of a thing. So if you like honey in fragrances, if you like almonds in fragrances and floral fragrances in general, definitely check out fragrances featuring Mimosa. But why don't we go ahead and get started with the first fragrance. This is not a ranked list. I'm highlighting various different Mimosa fragrances because they all go into different directions, and there's some gourmandish versions in here as well. This first one is from the house of AMOUAGE. It's Love Mimosa, this one right here. So this particular one definitely has a very, very fresh experience. So this one definitely does go fresh, but in the background you're experiencing the kind of like powdery, irisy touches, almond honey-like qualities. But this is kind of aquatic and also ozonic in contrast to the kind of powdery touches, the almondy honey-like touches of the Mimosa. So it's kind of a, very spring-like to me, and you're kind of experiencing this tree full of the flowers blooming along the coast perhaps. It's a sea. You've got kind of like a marine kind of a thing going in the background. You can smell the sea breeze and then at the same time the Mimosa flowers. There's a little bit of a fruitiness in this as well, and some other yellow flowers, a little tropical like Ylang-Ylang, and then there's also some heliotrope. So Love Mimosa is the first fragrance from the house of AMOUAGE. So the next fragrance I'm talking about is from the house of GOLDFIELD and Banks. This is Velvet Splendor, this one right here. So this one, to me, kind of goes into a woody, lightly almondy direction, and then bitter is the word because it has tonka beans in the note. Because as I said, Mimosa flowers do have a light almondy quality to them. They're very, very airy flowers. Like they're almost like little cotton balls when you look at them, but they're yellow and tiny. Pom-poms is what I was mentioning about this particular flower. So you've got that in here along with this bitter almondy touch in here, light tobacco-ish touch, and then you've got some white flowers as well. You not only have citrus florals of orange blossom in here, so it's definitely definitely nice, citrusy, very, very spring-like experience along with jasmine. And then there's the woods of the sandalwood in here. Quite a beautiful fragrance. In comparison to the previous fragrance, this one is a little more substantial, as in it has these kind of woody notes and things like that, whereas the first one was very fresh, ozonic, and then also marine aquatic as well. So Goldfield & Banks Velvet Splendor is definitely one for you to try if you like the idea of mimosa with you know, kind of a woody backbone and things like that. Up next, the fragrance I'm talking about is from a house called IDEO Parfumeurs. This is Space Rhapsody. So this is a very, very kind of a delicate and musky, almost getting to a point of going to like milk musk, rather more like a powdery milkiness in there rather than like liquidy milk. But it's that kind of a fragrance with loads of mimosa, and there's also musky notes in here of musk. There's definitely musk presence in here. So it does get a little bit animalic, but in addition to that, there's loads of woods here and some spices, and I think they contrast really, really beautifully with that mimosa, the overdose of mimosa in here. So there's black pepper, there's some cedarwood, and then, you know, you've got this very, very interesting contrast with pine tree or pine leaf note, or pine note, I should say, along with some sandalwood. So the sandalwood, I think, along with the mimosa, sandalwood does get creamy milky, so I think that's why I'm getting this kind of like a very, very cozy milky touch with this particular one. But it's full bloom mimosa, lots of it, with the musk and the black pepper and the cedarwood. So IDEO Parfumeurs Space Rhapsody, definitely check that one out if you like you know, sandalwoody, yellow floral kind of fragrances. The next fragrance I'm talking about is from the house of JOVOY. This is Touche Finale, this one right here. So here we go, the combination of mimosa with heliotrope. They do complement one another. I do find these notes a little similar but different at the same time, because they both are powdery experiences and they also both are almondy. You get those light almondy hints. They don't smell full-on almondy, but you do experience them here. Here in this one, it also goes ozonic. There's violet leaves note in here. So there's this kind of a crisp, crunchy, watery contrast in addition to the mimosa and heliotrope. Throw in some woods of sandalwood in here. But, you know, in the background, there's definitely some spices and rose in there as well, along with some musk. I think it's a really, really great fragrance. Mimosa fragrances are not fragrances that I really, really loved. I grew into them in this journey. You know, it took me 10 years to grow into enjoying and loving yellow flowers and especially white flowers as well. But I do enjoy this particular flower now. I find a very, very cozy experience to them. There's a very, very delicate experience about them, and here you definitely experience it not only with the mimosa but also the heliotrope notes. So Touche Finale from the house of JOVOY, I think is definitely a great fragrance for you to try. Next we're going to the house of FREDERIC MALLE. This is Un Fleur de Cassie. Do you know this particular fragrance? It's definitely mimosa, but it's a lot more stuff going on there, and then there's a little bit of an animalic undertone here with this particular fragrance. But you know, it's a fragrance just like other FREDERIC MALLE fragrances, but highlighting the mimosa flower in here. But with this one, you've got lots of sandalwood, there's jasmine, there's cassie, there's rose, and there's musk. So it's a very, very beautiful combination of notes. I feel like musk comes up a lot in mimosa-focused fragrances, and it definitely shines in this particular fragrance. Definitely has a classic touch about it as well, because I do find the mimosa flower to have a very classic smell to it. There's a vintage quality about it, and it's especially highlighted in this particular fragrance from FREDERIC MALLE, Un Fleur de Cassie. So number 9 is Un Fleur de Cassie from the house of FREDERIC MALLE. The next fragrance, we're going to a house called the Nativa. This is Saint Martin. So Saint Martin and all the other fragrances in this house are all focused on islands in the Bahamas. Is it the Bahamas? It could be the Caribbean. Yeah, I think it's Caribbean, but I haven't traveled around here, so I'm not 100% sure, but definitely focused on different islands and their flowers. And this particular one, Saint Martin, focuses on the mimosa flower, but it's a beautiful, fresh experience, absolutely wonderful to wear. If you like a fresh yellow floral kind of mimosa almond kind of delicate floral kind of experience, definitely you have to get your nose on this one. But it's loads of mimosa along with orange blossom. Throw in some musk, some jasmine, amber, and hibiscus, and you've got a great smelling fragrance where you have those kind of light almondy undertones with the mimosa. definitely powdery, but you have these fresh citrusy notes, the musk, the jasmine, which I feel like jasmine, orange blossom really do complement one another, and along with amber and hibiscus. There's definitely a tropical experience in this one, but not as much as some of their other fragrances which focus on tropical flowers. Either way, Mimosa is featured here in the fragrance Saint Martin from the Nativa house. Let me know if you know that particular fragrance. The next fragrance I'm talking about is from the house of Pear. This is Komorebi 9.1. Do you know this one? Once again, here we go into a fresh direction, and also lightly fruity and aromatic herbal kind of a direction. The star, once again, is Mimosa. There's lots of Mimosa in here. It's contrasted with mint. So there's this kind of like a aromatic herbal quality to it, contrasted with that kind of light almondy powderiness, the delicate yellow floral experience with this one. But in this one, they also throw in black currant, so there's definitely fruitiness here. Tonka beans, oak, and hazelnuts. So very, very unique notes. You've got woods, you've got the nuts, you've got the bitter almondy kind of tobacco-ish touches from the tonka beans in here, and then you've of course got the mimosa, the mint, and then the black currant in this particular fragrance. Very, very unique combo. Once again, it's fresh. It's a fresh wear. It's a spring wear. It smells like spring to me, and definitely one that you should check out. So Pierre Guillaume Komorebi 9.1 is a great fragrance focusing on mimosa flower. So up next, there's a fragrance from the house of Gucci in their Alchemist Garden collection, one of the more underrated ones, called Winter Spring. And this to me is a frosted, warm mimosa kind of an experience, if that makes sense to you guys. It's properly named. It's aptly titled Winter Spring, because what happens after winter is we get spring, and because of this kind of you know, winter and spring word play on the name of this fragrance, I get these kind of like frosty, kind of cool, crisp touches, but warmth with the mimosa flower kind of there highlighting this particular fragrance. So it's kind of a play on temperature kind of a thing, the warm and the cold together, which I quite like. So this is a very, very gentle and very delicate mimosa experience, and I feel like this particular fragrance has like very, very realistic smell of mimosa flower, just amplified in a perfume form. So if you've ever smelled the flower on the tree, you kind of get an idea of what it smells like. And then here, it's that smell just amplified in perfume form, if that makes sense. But winter, spring, mimosa, musk, and black pepper. So there's a little bit of a spiciness there, the little spice kick that the fragrance needs. But here, it's musky, very, very musky. And the star, of course, is the mimosa, and that's what they're highlighting here. There's not a lot of things going on with this particular fragrance, but I feel like there's, you know, the mimosa has these kind of nuances. There's the powdery touches. Of course, there is a little bit of almondy touch in there, and of course a little honeyed experience as well. So Winter Spring from the house of Gucci in the Alchemist Garden collection is definitely one for you to try. This next one's from the house of Zara in their drawing a blank with the name, but it's that travel-themed collection of fragrances that I did a video on recently. This is Boldly Soul, and I quite like this one. It's definitely very spring-like because mimosa smells like spring to me, and I think they've done a great job with this particular fragrance, and I enjoy the smell. But it's violets, mimosa, and musk together. Simplistic, not overwhelming, not too complex, but a very, very perfect, easy-to-wear floral fragrance where you're highlighting the violets and then, of course, the mimosa. So spring flowers in bloom kind of a thing. I think it's definitely solid. This is definitely one for you to try. It's Boldly Soul from the house of Zara. This next fragrance is from the house of Floris. This is 1927. This one also highlights mimosa flower. There's lots of mimosa with aldehydes. And then, of course, this one also has narcissus flower, another yellow flower, mandarin orange, violet, bergamot, patchouli, musk, and vanilla. It's a very, very unique fragrance, whereas I think the mimosa and the narcissus are kind of competing with one another, and the aldehydes is kind of balancing it out. Aldehydes has a fizzy quality to it, a sparkling effervescence, and I think the mimosa, aldehydes, narcissus are just beautifully working together. Of course, there's the citruses and the violet in there as well. I think it's a beautiful fragrance. A little indie-esque to me, but it's really, really a beautiful fragrance if you like the idea. So Floris 1927, definitely one for you to try if you don't know it. The next fragrance, I'm going to the house of Jacques Pat. This is L'Oreille du Bois. Translates to the edge of the wood. very much like Mimosa, like the actual smell of the flowers, once again amplified, like intensified for perfume form. That this one, it's a lot of Mimosa with cashmeran. There's cinnamon, there's cumin, there's sandalwood, neroli, amber, saffron, broom, and bergamot. A lot of stuff going on in this one. It is kind of complex, but you know, once again, the Mimosa is the star here. It's all about the Mimosa with all the other notes kind of supporting it to create for one beautiful ambery, woody, spicy, floral experience. This one to me does smell a lot like the Mimosa, as I keep saying. It's like spring smell to me, but with all its other things going on and the spices and the flowers and the ambery touches, it's a little more complex for like a fresh spring wear, if that makes sense. So L'Oreal Dubois from the house of Jacques Fat as definitely one for you to try. So I'm just going to have to say now that we have two more left. The next two fragrances are definitely my top two fragrances as far as Mimosa note goes. But the ones that came before these two, they're not in order. So here's the order now. I felt like doing that because, you know, I didn't want to put all of them in order. But this is a Mimosa fragrance going into a gourmand direction, and I absolutely love it. This is Zoologist Perfumes B, and I think they've added Mimosa flower in here perfectly, because what have I said? Mimosa has this kind of almondy touch and also honeyed experience. It's focusing on a fragrance called bee. Bees make honey, right? So I think honey, Mimosa, almondy touches, because there's definitely almondiness in here as well. All beautifully blended. And this happens to be my favorite Zoologist Perfumes fragrance. I absolutely love its delicious, powdery, yellow floral, honeyed experience. But lots of honey, royal jelly here, Mimosa flower, Heliotrope, broom, orange blossom, benzoin, vanilla, tonka. You also have the Heliotrope, and then in addition to that, there's also this yellow broom flower as well. It's such a gorgeous fragrance. Absolutely love it. That's why it's my favorite Zoologist Perfumes fragrance. Plus, it's my #2 favorite fragrance here as far as Mimosa goes. So this is Zoologist Perfumes B at #2. And my #1 favorite fragrance as far as Mimosa fragrances go, it's Xerjoff's Save Me. I wore so much of this when I smelled it, but this one to me is the fresh direction and an uber floral direction. If you like flowers, lots of unique flowers, this is a fragrance for you. So this does feature Mimosa, but along with Mimosa, there's chamomile, there's pink pepper, there's Ylang-Ylang, there's tuberose, there's cyclamen, gardenia, jasmine, and in addition to those flowers, you've got sandalwood and musk. So lots of unique flowers, and I think there's the gardenia in here and the tuberose and the jasmine, which are the typical white flowers, but you also have cyclamen in here, and you also have Ylang-Ylang. So it's kind of tropical, it's fresh, it's you know, spring-like, and it's just a floral bomb, but a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. Absolutely love this one. And at one time, I was not into flowers, period. Like, I liked my roses and perhaps lavender, thinking, you know, it's a kind of a flower herb kind of aromatic thing. But I'm obsessed with flowers now, and this is one of the best floral fragrances for me. And this particular one, unlike Zoologist B, which I feel like is more of a cold weather wear. There's no rules, but for me it's intense enough for cold weather. This one, it's intense but in a floral direction, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous wear in the heat. And the Mimosa shines in here. It's absolutely one-of-a-kind smelling fragrance. It's Mimosa flowers with its, you know, almondy touches and that kind of honeyed undertone with all those other flowers. The chamomile also in here adds this kind of unique aromatic experience. But gorgeous. Absolutely love this one. Save Me from the house of Xerjoff. I think it's an amazing smelling fragrance, and that's why it deserves to be my #1. So my #1 and #2 are some of my favorite fragrances of all time, and that's why I'm highlighting them here in this video at #1 and #2. So that's all I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts on this particular note. Are you a fan of Mimosa fragrances? Do you like Acacia honey? Let me know. Did you know about this flower before you watched this particular video? I'd like to find out. And now that you watched this video, but you didn't know anything about Mimosa, are you curious to check out fragrances featuring this note? Yes, Mimosa fragrances do lean feminine. For me, they do. And for me, I classify floral notes to be on the feminine side, but there's no rules. But this is just me. I have these kind of associations with specific notes. But you know, I enjoy these flowers a lot, and I enjoy these particular fragrances and this note. So that's why I'm highlighting it for you guys today. But let me know if you didn't know about this note. Are you curious to check it out? Would you think it would lean feminine if you're a man? If you're a woman, have you been enjoying this note? Or if you haven't smelled it, are you curious to try them? Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video on Mimosa fragrances. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. Okay, last and final fragrance. This is definitely fragrance that features mimosa, but it's more about tobacco and honey. This is from the house of Maison Violet, and this is Un Air d'Apogée, this one right here. So I did a video with one of the owners of this brand recently, and we discussed this particular fragrance and how the mimosa kind of like supports the honey note in here, because a mimosa flower does have the honey touches, and of course it's a little almondy, but since this is featuring the tobacco, Balkans tobacco with honey, I think that mimosa gives a beautiful kind of a yellow floral support to the fragrance. This is absolutely an amazing smelling fragrance. Absolutely love the way this smells. The tobacco, honey, mimosa, leather, there's ambroxan, anise, cistus labdanum, sage, cedar, for one-of-a-kind tobacco fragrance. Absolutely love it. Again, the mimosa in this one is not the star because it's the tobacco and honey together, but it's up there and nicely supporting those two notes. I think it's an amazing fragrance. This is also created by Nathalie Lorson, so if you like a tobacco fragrance and you're looking for something new, definitely check out Un Air d'Apogée from the house of Maison Violet. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today. I appreciate it, and stay tuned for more videos very soon. Bye-bye.